This is the trivia for The Naked Gun, so it will be linked to my full movie review. Liam Neeson was 72 years old at the time of filming, 5 years older than Leslie Nielsen was at the time he made his final appearance as Frank Drebin, age 67 at the time he filmed The Naked Gun, 33 and a third, the final insult. Wow. It's hilarious that he's in it as like an owl. Frank Drebin Jr. is like, Daddy, if you can give me a sign, maybe in the form of an owl. And then at the end, he's an owl. That's so cool. When Pamela Anderson first read the script and saw there was a scene in which Beth would need to perform a scat solo, she told the director that when she was in the 8th grade jazz band playing saxophone, she would sing the scat solos, which she didn't believe until she did it in front of him and got the job. That's so cool. He has an entire scene where she joins the band on stage as a distraction. The scene in the end credits when the cop car is driving through a house on a sidewalk, etc., is an edited version of the original film's opening credits. I still wonder how they did that. It must be the camera with like a mounted frame thing on a dolly, and they drive it around maybe. That is the coolest scene, because it's like a little mini police car, and it's driving in spots that a regular sized car wouldn't be able to fit into. In 2018, David Zucker said he, Jim Abrahams, and Jerry Zucker wrote a script for a 4th film in which Frank Drebin's son was a security guard who gets mixed up with the CIA and is sent on a spy adventure. It would have been a spoof of the Bourne and Mission Impossible films as well as the newer Bond films with Daniel Craig. The original title was The Naked Gun 4, Nordberg did it. Then got changed to Naked Gun Impossible. Then got changed to Naked Impossible. According to Zucker, the script was enthusiastically embraced by Paramount production head John Gonda. However, in a later meeting, the script was not as well received by Gonda's boss, who objected to some mild off-color jokes, including one where a woman gets a breast reduction to fit into a Kevlar bulletproof vest. Nothing happened with the project after that, and Zucker only found out about the reboot when he read about it in the press. Yeah, I didn't think I saw any spoofs of the Bourne series, just Mission Impossible. And one scene that is straight up from Mission Impossible. Akiva Schaffer revealed why he wrote only one O.J. Simpson joke in the film. To be honest, we never wrote another O.J. joke. We just went, yep, that takes care of that, Schaffer says. I didn't know that the joke would kill as hard as it did at our first test screening. If I had known that, then maybe I would have written other jokes, but you want to be respectful of everything that revolves around him. So it's not something I really took glee in. We just had to acknowledge it in a way that was not dancing on anybody's misfortunes. Yeah, that's a weird situation. Among many sight gags, instead of the usual motto of protect and serve, the LAPD vehicles have warm and serve on the doors. This is a repeat of a gag from Naked Gun 2.5, The Smell of Fear. Wow. Pamela Anderson was offered to play Tanya, Naked Gun 33 and a third, the final insult, but she had to turn it down due to the scheduling conflicts. Wow, she would have reprised her role in the new one. Liam Neeson himself has stated a few times in interviews when people confuse his name with Leslie Nielsen's, albeit the celebrity he is most often mistaken for is his friend Ralph Fiennes? Ray Fiennes? That's a weird name. There's like two people, or two different pronunciations for that guy's name. He remembered one of the very first times was in the 1990s when a grown person asked him something like, "Is your name Leslie Nelson?" He responded, "Close, Liam Neeson." In fact, when Leslie Nielsen died in late 2010, some media internet sites mistakenly thought it was Neeson. One internet post said he dies the year after his wife, Natasha Richardson, tragically did. Wow, that's some intense stuff. Development commenced in 2009 for a project initially stated as a direct-to-TV release featuring Leslie Nielsen, titled The Naked Gun 4, Rhythm of Evil. The concept unfolded as a passing the torch narrative with Frank Drebin mentoring a younger police officer. I think that might have been one of the rumors I heard for this new film. There's a scene in the club where several stuffed animals are displayed. One of those animals is a beaver, which is a reference to the famous Nice Beaver scene from the first Naked Gun movie. That's cool. It has been stated that the casting of Liam Neeson is a joke, that his name has often been confused with that of the late Leslie Nielsen. Yeah, I don't know if that was like the intention or not, because Liam Neeson really fit the role. In a rare interview, comedy musician Weird Al Yankovic said that he is in talks to have a cameo in this movie, just like in the previous Naked Gun movies. That's pretty cool. Aside from the stills, Priscilla Presley and Weird Al Yankovic are the only actors to appear in all 4 films. Conversely, Ed Williams, scientist Ted Olson, is the only actor still alive to appear in the first 3 in series as well, but not this entry. Wow, that's cool. It's been explained on internet sites that Frank Drebin Jr. is not the same character as the male baby born at the end of Naked Gun 33 and the final insult. That character would only be in his 30s, whereas Liam Neeson is in his 70s. Drebin Jr. is supposedly a child whom Frank Drebin Sr. didn't know he had fathered and was born much earlier, and chose to go by his name. Although Priscilla Presley has a brief cameo as a lady watching Drebin Jr.'s comic called Failings on television, she's not supposed to be his mother. Presley's only 7 years older than Neeson. Interesting. They probably weren't entirely sure about making one in the future, so they didn't focus on tying up a loose end, or they had to kind of fix the loose end. The Wilhelm scream is heard when Kane crashes his motorcycle, causing him to be flung into a fountain. That is so funny. What a classic scream that they continue to use. This is the 4th time Weird Al Yankovic has appeared in a Naked Gun movie, but only the 3rd time he played himself. In the Naked Gun 2.5 The Smell of Fear, he played an unnamed punk who gets knocked out by Frank Drebin, opening the door on him. That is so funny. Liam Neeson is exactly 10 years older than Leslie Nielsen was in the original film. Liam Neeson is exactly 10 years older than Leslie Nielsen was in the original film. Liam Neeson gave himself a note, don't try to be funny. He tried to play it seriously because that was the reason he was cast. Yeah, that's good. Just say it normally. Don't try to make it sound like a joke. The first film where an intimacy coordinator was required for a scene featuring a snowman. That is such an insane scene. Totally Family Guy type stuff. The scene where the snowman comes to life is set to the tune of Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now by Starship. The song was originally used in the movie Mannequin, which of course was about a mannequin coming to life. Wow, that's cool. This one's funny. UFC ring announcer Bruce Buffer appears as the ring announcer for a professional MMA match between actual competitors Justin Gaethje and Kamaru Ossman. The broadcast team for the fight includes UFC play-by-play man John Anik and retired fighter and color commentator Michael Bisping, while the referee is former UFC ref Big John McCarthy. That is so cool that they spoofed the UFC and not only make it work, actually are able to tie it into the story, or in a way, not just make it like a waste of a spoof or something like that. There is a scene in the movie in which Kevin Durant's character sees images through an infrared camera that he mistakes for far racier goings on, which is a scene I cannot believe they put in the movie, but wow. 10 years ago, or 15 or 20, it probably would have made it rated R. This is similar to a scene involving shadows in Austin Powers' Aspire Shag Me, which coincidentally was Durant's featured film debut. Yeah, it is the Austin Powers scene, isn't it? Yeah, it is. When Austin Powers goes to the to the doctors or something. Oh, no. I remember. He's on the floor looking at stuff, and she's trying to get stuff, and it looks like she's taking out of his butt or something like that. That's funny. I didn't notice that. As with the previous films, the European French title keeps the Y a-t-il un flic pour sauver, as is there a cop to save trend going, with Y a-t-il un flic pour sauver le monde? Is there a cop to save the world? Making it more explicit that the film is a sequel, not a reboot. Italy gives it the same title as the original Una Palatola Spuntata, a blunt bullet. And now for a big tribute. Liam Neeson said the comedic stuff he dabbled in were just TV skits that were never more than a few minutes long, but I did know that if push came to shove, and we did it, the script would at least be good if producer Seth MacFarlane was involved, because he's got a wicked sense of humor. He admitted, if it's at the very least good, I shouldn't try to be funny, just be serious. I knew there'd be lots of sight gags. The scene where Neeson takes down robbers while wearing a schoolgirl uniform was unexpected, and as he confirmed, the trick to pulling that off is not to try too hard. He did soldier through scenes that even for him are too rough. There was a couple of lines I remember as the script developed that said, "That's too much. That's way, way too much," he recalled. But at the end of the day, I always trust director Akiva Schaffer. That level of trust helped Neeson deliver lines that went over his head. There were references in one scene to some TV show that to me was like ancient Arabic. "What the F am I saying?" he said. And Schaffer was like, "Don't you know this show, Buffy the Vampire Slayer," or something like that? But he said, they've done a screening and it plays, it gets a laugh. It's still the original trilogy that heavily inspired the reboot, but Neeson made sure his performance wasn't. No, those sort of notes I wouldn't have accepted, he asserted. I've done over 100 movies, so I don't need someone to tell me how to act. Initially, all Neeson knew about Frank Drebin Jr. was just that he's very serious and very committed to being a policeman. He also revealed that one thing that would have turned him off the project if the producers had said, I must bleach my hair like Leslie Nielsen's for the role. There's no way I would have done that. Yeah, some of the stuff, it's like, I mean, it's in line with the scary movie stuff. It really is. Like, once you start to see, like, the style of these films, you really start to see the similarities. At 85 minutes, this film has exactly the same running time as The Naked Gun from the Files of Police Squad. And interestingly, the budgets were roughly similar too. The budget for this film was $42 million, and the budget for the original film was $14.5 million, which was adjusted for 37 years of inflation, equates to $39.4 million in 2025. Cool. The first Naked Gun film produced after the death of franchise co-creator Jim Abrahams in 2024. Wow. David Zucker, who neither directed or had a supporting job with making the previous Naked Gun films, has stated that he has no desire to see this film. The issue has been the same with Airplane 2, the sequel. Why wouldn't you want to see a film? Usually, like, you're into film, so you want to, like, see everything. Third collaboration between Liam Neeson and Seth MacFarlane. After A Million Ways to Die in the West and Ted 2, Neeson also guest starred in MacFarlane's series Family Guy and The Orville. I haven't watched The Orville. I should check that show out. A Million Ways to Die in the West was very weird, very funny, and again, it's gag stuff. It's totally like this. And then Ted and Ted 2 have, the same concept of Pamela Anderson has co-starred in 2 films with the late Leslie Nielsen, Scary Movie 3 and Superhero Movie, though they did not share any scenes in either film. Wow, that's cool. In 2013, Ed Helms was originally set for a reboot with Robert Van Garant and Thomas Lennon writing the screenplay. That's cool. The car crash investigation scene was filmed at a former granite quarry just west of downtown Atlanta. It is now a reservoir operated by the Department of Watershed Management. Seth MacFarlane, the producer of this film, has spoofed and mentioned the Naked Gun movies in his show Family Guy on numerous occasions. That's cool. Liam Neeson stated in an interview that he did see each of the 3 Naked Gun films once when they were released in the 80s and 90s, but however did not rewatch any of them upon being cast in this film. Yes, that's good. He probably would have started to channel Leslie Nielsen rather than doing his own style. It would have been too fresh in his mind, and it would have been distracting. So it's good that he just did the movie without watching the previous work. Longtime Seth MacFarlane musical collaborator Joel McNeely was originally intended to score the film. However, less than 2 months before release, McNeely was suddenly and abruptly replaced by Lorne Balfe. Wow. The film contains scenes with professional wrestler Cody Rhodes, former professional wrestler Dave Bautista, and wrestling enthusiast as well as professional wrestler on a much smaller scale, Paul Walter Hauser. Wow, I didn't know Paul Walter Hauser was a wrestler. That's cool. Yeah, Batista's in it for a second, I guess. Pretty hilarious. This is the first Naked Gun movie to be filmed in Panavision anamorphic 2.39:1. Unlike the original trilogy, which was shot in standard spherical 1.85:1. First Naked Gun movie to not have any direct involvement from the Zaz team of David Zucker, Jim Abrahams, and Jerry Zucker, but all 3 received writing credits for characters. Liam Neeson has worked for and with Seth MacFarlane, who's the producer here, before having appeared in Family Guy, The Orville, A Million Ways to Die in the West, and Ted 2. The first audition of Pamela Anderson's career was for this film. Oh, that's cool. I wonder if she's going to do more stuff in the future. Director Akiva Schaffer had to fight Paramount Studio executives to keep the movie's snowman sequence in the picture, considered by many to be in the film's signature and best thing. Wow, that's funny. It's really hilariously random. Similarly, John Travolta had to fight Paramount executives and go to producer Robert Stigwood to retain his dancing in Saturday Night Fever, which they wanted to cut out. What? The film's disco dancing, also considered by many to be famous for and remembered most in that flick, is the movie's signature disco dancing scenes that many people thinking it was the best thing in the movie. Schaffer said after the first test screen, it was the #1 scene in the movie, that people had really fought me on it after a lot of crow without me asking. the people that really fought me on it after ate a lot of crow without me asking. I tried to let them off the hook easy and go, that's fine. But they were like, no, dude, we were wrong. That is so weird. Doesn't the test screening with the test audience kind of determine like what's going to go in the final cut? The plot acronym stands for Primordial Law of Toughness. Fourth collaboration between Liam Neeson and Danny Houston after Clash of the Titans, Wrath of the Titans, and Marlowe. Akiva Schaffer replaced Seth MacFarlane as the film's director after the picture was greenlit by the Paramount Pictures Studio in October 22. MacFarlane is still a producer on the movie. Working titles of a fourth Naked Gun movie, though its various iterations have been Episode 4 and New Hope, The Naked Gun 4 Rhythm of Evil, The Naked Gun what 4? The Rhythm of Evil, The Naked Gun 444 and a quarter, or a fourth. Nordberg did it. And Naked Impossible. That's tough. At one point, Drebin mentions Catherine Zeta-Jones. Liam Neeson co-starred with Jones in The Haunting. That's cool. Danny Houston and Kevin Durant previously co-starred in X-Men Origins Wolverine. That is so cool. Stryker and Blob, I think. The movie features its romantic montage, the Starship song Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now from the film Mannequin. The famous track in 1988 received an Oscar nomination for Best Original Song, which was in the same 1988 year that the first original Naked Gun movie premiered. On top of having similar sounding names, Liam Neeson and Leslie Nielsen bear the same initials, Ellen. However, that only works because Liam is the shortened given name for William. Oh, I didn't think about that. Neeson is born William John Neeson. Oddly, Leslie Nielsen's middle name is William as well. That's funny. Like Jack Kirby and Vanessa Kirby from Fantastic Four, no relation. The high majority of the filming in the USA took place in Atlanta, Georgia, despite the movie being set in LA, in California. That's fun. Liam Neeson's detective, Frank Drebin Jr. character is not just a reboot of Leslie Nielsen's detective Frank Drebin Sr. character, but it is also a riff and self-parody of his tough guy persona, which has been his staple in motion pictures ever since Taken. That's cool. Fifth Naked Gun and Police Squad production following the 1982 six-episode television series and three feature films first released in 1988, 1991, and 1994. It's the sixth if one counts a video game, The Naked Gun ICUP. They made a game? That's cool. First time that actor Liam Neeson has worked on a movie set with an intimacy coordinator. It's interesting. One of the films for official posters shows Liam Neeson and Pamela Anderson. It bears a resemblance to the official poster of Spy Hard, 1996, having Leslie Nielsen and Nicolette Sheridan in similar stances. Posters are known for bearing resemblance to others. Weird Al Yankovic is also in both of these films. Liam Neeson is actually the third actor to portray a son of Detective Frank Drebin Jr., Sr., Detective Frank Drebin Sr., voice actor AJ Locascio played Frank Drebin Jr. in the video game The Naked Gun ICUP in 2012, and Adam Hassart portrayed the infant Frank Jr. in the Naked Gun 33 and the Third, The Final Insult. Nice. Lorne Balfe replaced regular Seth MacFarlane coordinator Joe McNeely as the film's score composer. A sequel has been discussed by key creatives such as writers, actors, and producers in the month of first release in August 2025, according to producer Erica Huggins. Cool. Of curiosity, Liam Neeson was asked in an interview if he had ever got to meet the similar name Leslie Nielsen. Neeson does not recall he ever did, but if he unknowingly crossed paths with him, he'll never know. Well, probably at an event. I bet you, like at one of these award shows, they're there, right? It was released on the same day as The Bad Guys 2, which is another sequel that also puts a comedic spin on a specific film genre that also features the involvement of a Family Guy alumnus, Alex Borstein. Cool, I think she plays Lois. The Bad Guys 2. The first one's hilarious, I like it. Final theatrical feature film released by the Paramount Picture Studio under the ownership of the Redstone family and National Amusements, who have owned the Hollywood major since 1995 from the time of the studio's merger with Viacom. The acquisition of Paramount Global by Skydance Media was finalized on 7th August 2025, which was 6 days before the picture premiered on the 1st of August 2025. Nice. The female leads from the original reboot were both married to iconic rock stars Priscilla Presley, to Elvis Presley and Pamela Anderson to Tommy Lee and Kid Rock. Nice. When the first 2 Naked Gun movies were made, star Liam Neeson, who plays Detective Frank Drebin Jr., appeared in a cop movie in each of the same years of release. In 1998, when The Naked Gun from the Files of Police Squad debuted, he appeared in the Dirty Harry movie, The Deadpool. Yeah, he did. In 1991, when The Naked Gun 2.5 to Smell of Fear premiered, Neeson played the detective in Under Suspicion. That's some wild stuff. Even Jim Carrey was in The Deadpool, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that he's in that one. This 4th Naked Gun movie is a sequel following The Naked Gun 2.5 and The Naked Gun 33 1/3. Nice. I wonder if they're going to make a 5th or a 6th or whatever, another one with Liam Neeson in it. The name of the big tech corporation run by Richard Kane and Danny Houston was Eden Tech. I don't get that. Is that a joke or a play on? I'm assuming that would be like a parody of Elon Musk or something, because it wasn't obvious that it was Elon Musk, but a tech person. And I don't think anybody is outspoken like Elon Musk in a way. You know, like he's always out in the front. Like Bill Gates doesn't act like Elon Musk in the same situation. During the mid-credit scene, Frank and Beth are puzzled when the scene and people around them appear to get frozen in time. These are spoilers, by the way. This is an obscure reference to the original TV series Police Squad that only ran for 6 episodes and will later be semi-continued with the original The Naked Gun from the Files of Police Squad as a parody of the contemporary habit of ending television shows with a freeze frame. Police Squad episodes always ended with a fake freeze frame, wherein the actors were trying to hold still but comically failing at that. That is so funny. Yeah, the ending of this is very, very cool. The scene of Frank being framed for murder is parody of the scene that from Liam Neeson's other film, Taken 3. Cool. The scene where Frank interrogates Sig in the hospital bed is clearly an homage to the same scene in Mission Impossible Fallout. That is a hilarious joke. That is so funny. That is a good scene. During the closing credits of the movie, the original opening of the old Naked Gun was play in honor of the original movie with Leslie Nielsen. Yeah, that's cool. I like that. Paul Walter Hauser's character beats up a bunch of kids in the film's finale, which recalls his time as Stingray on Cobra Kai, where he did the same thing. That scene is insanely funny, too. The plot of a wealthy businessman destroying society and having his own bunker full of other wealthy people is the same as Kingsman, the Secret Service. Wow. See, I didn't watch those 2 films, Kingsman and other ones. I didn't watch those too much. I think I watched the first one. I don't remember it, but I didn't even get the reference. The plot of a billionaire killing the human race and creating his own civilization has been done in 2 James Bond movies, The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker. Yeah, they were definitely doing that. The sight gag where a whole bunch of people queue up to fight Frank Drebin Jr. is based on a similar sight gag in Airplane. That's a good scene. The scene when Richard Kane takes control of the car he gave to Frank Drebin is similar to a scene in Batman Returns where the Penguin takes control of the Batmobile. Both scenes even have the villain's face on the car's console screen. First Naked Gun movie in the franchise not to feature the red flashing police siren light at the start of the picture, instead though playing it over the closing credits. The film does not offer a new version of the sequence of this, instead playing the original one from the original 1988 picture, The Naked Gun from the Files of Police Squad. I love that scene. That is so cool. This drives everywhere on a roller coaster and stuff. Did you get all of that sequence? This is more of the Mission Impossible Fallout spoof scene. So this trivia right here explains basically what they were going to do with that scene and how much more intricate they were going to do it, and it was going to keep going, I guess. The Did You Get All That scene sequence comes from the world of Mission Impossible, specifically a scene in Fallout in which Tom Cruise Ethan Hunt fools a bad guy in a hospital with false news reports from Wolf Blitzer, who is actually Simon Pegg's Benji wearing a mask. In The Naked Gun, Kevin Durant's character sees a news report that his boss, the villain Richard Kane, has been arrested. It's the most explicit reference to another film in The Naked Gun within limits. I purposely didn't copy the set, so it's not like an Oscars opening with Billy Crystal. Turns out Frank himself is being set up by Detective Barnes, who is from Internal Affairs. But soon she's getting arrested by a representative from OSHA for bribing city contractors to build the sets she needed to nab Frank. Very complicated. Once she admits that, Frank again utters, "Did you get all that?" The OSHA employee is operating a hologram to capture her, a reference to the magician thriller Now You See Me. While most movies don't want you to think too hard about the logistics of a sting, That's where the Naked Gun team found the humor. There is a double cross, the triple cross, really blowing those ideas out and then hopefully commenting on like, how did you build these sets so quickly? Now you're getting into the minutia of the thing you never want to know about in Mission Impossible. The script went even further than what you see on screen. We then at some point revealed that this entire enormous soundstage was in a giant airplane. That airplane would have been operated by Kane. Throughout the film, Schaefer tried to accomplish as much as possible without visual effects. It's just so much funnier in any movie when you can tell that they really crashed a car or they really jumped out of the window, he said. But creating a particular gag took extra effort and money. It was by far the most expensive set we built just because of the scale and because of the rigging. Before the sets were even constructed, Schaefer and the production designer Bill Bresky tried to solve what Schaefer called the math of how it would all fit together through storyboards and pre-visualization software. The actual set truly had a maze-like quality and took up an entire 100 by 120-foot soundstage in Atlanta. It's like an onion, Bresky said. The soundstage was cleared, and we made successive simple rooms as you go in. They were all like the Russian doll. They got bigger and bigger and bigger. Pieces of furniture were attached to the wall so they too could disappear, and the crew tried to make the scenery move as much as possible because, Bresky said, you don't want to get hung up on the mechanism of the gag. They rehearsed the sequence numerous times, and while you might think that repetition would kill comedy, Bresky said it had the opposite effect. We discovered doing that the people loved coming and watching the scene, he said. You can tell by your crew if they're having a good time, the audience is going to have a good time. Though they never filmed the airplane reveal, there was another layer to the joke they did film but cut. In that version, the OSHA rep is targeted by an undercover ice cream man whose truck had been illegally moved. It was resulted in a big melee, Gregor said, in which there was so many different factions that they couldn't agree on who had authority. Wow. This is an example of overwriting and then trying to pick the best one, and they're all good ideas. Schaefer explained that they debated keeping the final twist until the very last minute, but ended up deciding that less was more. Every scene is just about getting out and getting to the next thing before people can fully realize what they just saw. Wow. Could you imagine if they had kept that in the movie? The movie is an hour and 12 minutes, or hour and 15 minutes, with the credits, which makes it an hour and 25 minutes. It is already like a tight film with a lot of stuff going on. But again, I wouldn't have minded that scene. I think it's totally in their style. I think it just would have added to the humor. Would have been fine either way. I don't know if these movies release extended cuts or anything like that. I think you can get Scary Movie 4 uncut and Scary Movie 5 uncut or something. There's a lot they cut out of those movies. The name of the stadium was the PonziScheme.com Arena. The production was originally going to call it the Crypto.com Arena. That's cool. The threesome love scene with Frank, Beth, and the snowman received guidance and assistance from an intimacy coordinator. It was the first time that actor Liam Neeson has worked with on a movie set with an intimacy coordinator. The face mask removing ruse scene performed by Frank Drebin Jr. during the opening bank heist is derived from the Mission Impossible film and television franchise. That's cool. Which those movies, Mission Impossible, they use it so much now. The names of the product in these two advertising commercials were Muscle Slime. Want to get ripped? All you need is Muscle Slime and Gorilla Nut for men. Try this enhanced drink supplement for men. Pamela Anderson as Beth Davenport appears as both a blonde and a brunette like Kim Novak did in Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo. Cool. The fake name for Beth Davenport that Frank Drebin Jr. gave to the villain Richard Kane was Cherry Roosevelt Fat Bozo Charring Spaghetti. Oh my god, that's crazy. The name of the true crime novel that Beth Davenport made up and wrote was The Killer Wore Lipstick. The name of the book that provided the magic to bring the snowman to life was spelled in incantations, Show Business Trade Paper Variety reported. The name of the book that provided the magic to bring the snowman to life was spelled in incantations. Show Business Trade Paper Variety reported a supernatural green light travels from the book to the snowman outside, bringing the giant creature to vivid life. That scene is so insane. Well, I mean, it's not insane. It's just so random that it's in this movie and the length that it goes. Honestly, it does sound like what they were gonna do with the Mission Impossible Fallout spoof scene in the hospital. Like, it does seem like the level that the snowman scene goes to is what the interrogation scene spoof would have gone to with the other ideas that they had. The last one, I guess, is the name of the arch villain, Richard Kane, global destruction scheme was Project Inferno. Some of these trivia is more just like, hey, did you know? Not like a surprise. A lot of movies have, who else was, who auditioned for the roles. I wonder who auditioned for this movie. Could you imagine if they didn't cast Liam Neeson in it? Like, or they did Jared Leto or someone, or George Clooney, maybe? And then the cameos are Dave Bautista as himself, Dave Bautista, Priscilla Presley as Jane Spencer, Busta Rhymes as a bank robber, Weird Yankovic as himself, Bruce Buffer as a ring announcer, Cody Rhodes as a bartender, Leslie Nielsen as Lieutenant Frank Drebin Sr., seen in a portrait painting, George Kennedy as Captain Ed Hawkins, seen in a portrait painting, and O.J. Simpson as Nordberg, seen in a portrait painting. Well, all those bits of trivia are really, really interesting and really cool. That took a long time.